Welcome back to the shop. This week we are going to peak and tweak our Asian-inspired hybrid recurve bow. Put some horn tips on there, a grip, and peaked and tweaked this thing to a 45 pounds at 28-inch draw bow. Let's just dive right in and finish her up. All right, now that we have this bow tillered out to 27 inches currently, pulling 27 inches. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 46 pounds at that draw length. We are going to start the process of peaking and tweaking this bow. So in order to shoot it, we got to start the layout in our grip so that we can start taking some practice shots. And we're going to do some work on the tips here with tip overlays and just finishing out, or putting all the finishing touches rather on this guy. But to start with, I'm going to work on the layout of the grip. I have my upper limb positioned up here, and I'm going to go about this just a little bit differently. With this particular bow, I'm going to literally find its center point on my middle finger, and where it balances evenly on that middle finger, I'm just going to take grip of this bow right like that, and I'm going to make note of where I'm at for a grip. That's how I'm going to determine the grip on this bow. And just to kind of stay in some normal confines of instruction, well, it's exactly 4 inches. So that is going to be the placement of my grip. Now my intention is to make this grip one that is just kind of hourglass shaped, maybe a little bit of a bulb in there to fill the swell of my palm. So we'll kind of keep a swell in through here, but just dish out the sides or the neck here into the fades so that I am able to shoot this bow either off the thumb or off the index finger should I decide to shoot with a thumb draw or Mediterranean draw. Okay, here's what I've done to try and keep this pretty easy. I've marked out the center of my 4-inch section and given myself marks right here for where I want the thickest part of the grip to be. I put some marks in at the ends of the grip to kind of show where I want the thinnest portions of that grip to be, and the marks out on the fades where I want the fades to come to an end, which gives me plenty of room still with riser going into the limb here, and basically just connecting the dots and making this like an hourglass type of scenario right here, and then grinding it out. A few minutes on the sander, and you can see that I got a good basic shape going on here. Feels really pretty good in the hand. I got a good little swell in here that fills my palm. And this is, of course, just the very rough shaping. We'll take after it then with some rasps and files and whatnot. Maybe a little more time on the sander, grinder, but this gets us now close enough to kind of take off the rough edges and then restring this guy and start shooting it. Been shot 25 times at this point, so the initial 25 shots out of this this bow, and it seems to be behaving really pretty well. I think I might be getting a little bit of misalignment on the tip here on the upper limb, but from a stability standpoint, I am showing a 7 3/4 gap between the fade and the string on the upper limb, and a 7 5/8 gap on the bottom. So we have a 1/8 difference between top and bottom. The shape seems to be holding itself really pretty well too. Did some really I got the grip pretty well smoothed out so that it's comfortable to grip and shoot. But 25 shots in, guys, looks like just a little bit of tweaking on the upper tip, and then we just start thinning tips and bringing this to full draw. So so far so good. About 40 shots later, and still maintaining stability on this guy. Still at a 7 3/4 gap on that top limb to a 7 5/8 on the lower. So positive tiller remains to be about 3/16 of an inch. I'm pleased with that. It shoots really pretty smoothly. Have not put a chronograph up against it, but the arrows seem to fly high, which generally means they're not arcing. So pretty speedy bow, at least on initial observation. Taking, I think it's pretty standard unstrung shape here. So a little bit of setback. We can see our tips ahead of the grip here. Set down flat. We've got, I don't know, probably inch and a half here. Back of the grip. Of course, it's set back a little extra, so don't make a whole lot of that. But in any event, at this point, I have cleaned up all of the rind off of the bamboo surfaces, so there's no more rind. We have basically taken this down to its final surfaces. I've rounded out the edges here, so it gives it a really pretty nice smooth appearance. So all those sharp edges have been dealt with all the way through to the tips. At this point, I'm going to kind of turn my attention to these gaps. So we have still managed to retain some of those epoxy gaps in the one recurve over here. Let's see here. I was coming across and seeing a little bit of a gap here between the bamboo and the riser. Kind of tough to see in the light here, but there's just a little bit here that needs to be filled in. On the opposing side rather, this is pretty well solid, but we'll go in and fill just these little pinholes that we've got going on over here. Just a smidge of some pinholes right here on this lamination piece right here. And then our repair actually looks really good. There's some really dark spots here that can look like they're gaps, but they're not. That is actually solid epoxy there. So the repair turned out great. Seems to work out very well. So I'm going to fill those gaps. I will probably do so at the same time, however, that I put in some tip overlays. So I'm going to grind these tips down on a flat edge. I'm feeling like putting some horn overlays on here, some water buffalo horn, to give it that really nice finished appearance, and fill those gaps, and then we will take it back out and continue shooting. So this is where we stand now. Continued to shoot it for probably, I want to say, another 30 shots. So I'm up there at about 100 shots through this bow now. Have put some horn overlays, tip overlays on there. I also put in a little string groove on the back of the limbs. Still showing 3/16 of an inch positive tiller to the top side. These last 30 or so arrows that I shot, I did with thumb release, and it seems to be behaving really well in that style of shooting as well. So I'm pretty pleased with the way this is turning out. We'll get this guy up on the tillering string now, or on the tillering tree rather, get a good look at the tiller and get a final weight on the draw, and we'll take some shots or get some footage of it shooting. Okay guys, here we are on the tilling tree. Give this guy some tugs. The upper limb is on the right hand side as you're looking. Oh, let me zero this. You can see as it's pulling, those limbs really do bend quite a bit. At 27 inches, it's pulling 44 pounds. So it's about a 45-pound bow at my draw length. So here we go. At 28. $45, 46 pounds. So here he is at full draw. So everything has held up. Maintained a 3/16 inch positive tiller on that top limb. Shot in now. Little over 100 times. I'm gonna call the peaking and tweaking phase of this build done. We're gonna call it right here. 45 pounds, 28 inches is what I'm gonna label it. Shoots really pretty smooth. I like it. Shoots fast. We'll get on about doing some of the speed testing here at the end. Right after I'm done doing my most favorite task, and that is sanding and finishing this. So just got done with the finish on this bow. Tongue oil. Bamboo is not a very porous material, so it did not take long to build up a pretty nice luster on there. 3 coats is all it took. And from this point, it's just a matter of getting a grip on there, some strike plates, and commissioning this guy into service. Okay, I feel it important to remind everybody that I'm not naturally a thumb release shooter, so this is all still practice for me in that regard, but here's the bow. There she is. completely finished. So kind of a look at the horn nocks there, the grip that I put in, and I ended up doing like a 2-stage grip, so a regular leather grip on the bottom, and then like attached a secondary piece over the top that I folded and kind of made an integrated rest. So it's not, there's not a lot of rest here, but it's enough to index the arrow when you're shooting. And I can do it off of either side, the thumb or the finger. But that is it. It's all done. 45 pounds, 28 inches. So thank you guys for joining me this week. I appreciate your time. And for the entire build, as a matter of fact, we'll be embarking on a new build here shortly. I'm gonna throw in one more video next week about some of the tribulations that I encountered with this particular bow. I didn't want to put it out there until I knew that this would come to fruition, but it had all kinds of issues that I had to repair with it, and so I got another repair video coming next week to kind of go over delamination issues if you deal with them after doing a build like this. So hang in for next week, and I will see you then.